Hi guys, this is Tansir with the Inventory. Welcome to the second video in our series of videos showing off the Arturia Microbruth and using this as a base to teach you a little bit about analog synthesis and how to program synthesizers such as this. Now, a lot of the techniques that we talk about with regards to what an analog synthesizer is comprised of is kind of universal across all analog synthesizers. So this is a great way to learn how to program synthesizers. We're using the Microbruth because it's one of the most popular analog synthesizers, one of the most popular analog synthesizers, especially because of its price point. We made another video before this showing off how to create really cool and powerful bass sounds. In this particular video, we're going to try and create some lead sounds to see what the process is like to program a sound like that and how these various components in the synthesizer come together. So let's get started. So here we have the oscillator section, the filter section, the envelopes, and the master, which basically the signal flows like this. It pretty much goes from left to right. And these are our modulators. So right now we are hearing no sound. That's because there's no volume from any of the oscillator waveforms going into the filter. So let's increase one of them. I have the sawtooth here. So we have a nice sawtooth waveform here that's being fed into the filter. I kind of like the sawtooth waveform for a lead sound, but I'll just quickly try out the others to see. So as we learned in the last video, the knob on top of each of these waveforms modulate this particular waveform. So you get a variety of timbres using this modulation knob here. So in the case of the square or pulse width waveform, this modulates the pulse width. So like that. So we can find different places in the waveform here that you might like. Here we have a, take that down, here we have a triangle waveform. Nice pure sound, really nice for those more smooth, clean tones. So for the purpose of this lead sound, I'm going to go with a saw waveform. So the classic saw waveform. And the Microbruth has something cool called the ultra saw, which basically, let me first play this so you hear what it sounds like. So this is without, with. So you can hear it almost seems like there is a second and third duplicate of this, slightly offsetting each other, giving you this nice, fat, swirly kind of a sound. Pretty cool. It straight away sounds perfect for a lead sound, a nice, powerful lead sound. So let's kind of stay with this the way it is. The next thing that we want to go to is our envelope. Right now, the VCA trigger mode, basically what that means is that when you press a note and take it off, the way the synthesizer is triggered or the amplifier section is triggered is on gate. So there's just an on-off. So anything I do here will have no effect. No effect because it's set to gate mode. For this to have effect, we need to switch it to envelope mode. Now this controls the volume of the master. So we are again not hearing anything because everything is down. So I'll bring up our sustain. So this is the level at which the volume, this slider decides the volume of the master as long as you're holding the note down, which is the sustain portion of it. This attack is the initial, how quickly it goes from 0 to full volume. So if we slow this down, I'll slow down even more so you can hear the effect clearly. Right, so you get the idea. So let's bring it back a bit to a position that we like for the lead sound. I like this. Maybe a little shorter. Now you hear this click right when I let go, right? What's happening here is that the release is pretty much non-existent. So it's clicking really immediately. The sound is not fading out smoothly. So we can fix that by increasing the release. So I'll increase it all the way just so you hear what it does. So that gives it a nice fade out for the sound. I'm going to bring this back a bit. A little more. So I like this envelope for a lead sound. It seems to work pretty well. The next thing that we want to do is try and shape the filter to kind of tone the sound of the oscillator back. So as we learned in the last video, the amount of volume you set for each of the oscillators dictates how hard you push the filter. Right now we have the triangle as well. Let me take that down. So that's another example of how even though the microbrute has a single oscillator, this is a really nice example of how you can mix multiple waveforms. So here's the saw waveform by itself. It sounds a little thin because of the ultra saw. To fatten it up a little bit, we're going to mix in a bit of the triangle waveform. See, without it and with it. Just a little more body. The nice thing about a triangle waveform, when mixed with something like a saw waveform has a lot of harmonics. It basically has all the harmonics. The triangle waveform has just one harmonic, so it doesn't really add any additional tones to the sound. So in this case, without it taking away any of the frequencies of the saw waveform, we're just adding a little bit of body. So this is an excellent waveform to use just to add body to your sound. Really quickly once more, just to recap, without and with. Nice, right? So that's a cool tip. You can use either a sine or a triangle waveform to kind of add body to your sound. So next thing, let's go for the filter here. The microbrute has a multi-mode filter. You can either use it in low pass mode, where this cutoff knob sweeps the frequencies and only allows the low frequencies to pass. In band pass mode, it allows basically a certain section of the frequency range to pass. So and in high pass mode as well. So high pass mode, as you can imagine, is the reverse of low pass, which it only allows the higher frequencies to pass and not the lower frequencies. So this is cool when you mix in some resonance. What the resonance does is it boosts the frequency around the cutoff. So let me bring in the resonance a bit. So you see that nice peaky tone. Here's without and now with. So that peaky resonant quality is coming from here. For the purpose of the lead, I want a nice fat lead, so I'm going to stay with the low pass. I'm going to find a spot here where I like. So I kind of like it here, but the problem is it's a bit too static in the way the cutoff works. So one way of adding some modulation or variation to the cutoff frequency is using the envelope. What this does is, you can see here it's positive and negative. So the way you assign the envelope to modulate this is by increasing this particular knob here. So what this does is, it assigns this envelope to modulate this. So once more at 0, we'll increase the envelope and with no envelope. Right now, the way, if I increase the attack just to demonstrate this, you'll get a sense of what it does. So you see, along with the volume, because this one envelope is now controlling both the volume and the envelope modulation for the filter. So this isn't really working in this case, I don't think so. So what I'd like to do to bring some modulation here for the cutoff is use the LFO here, and the patch bay comes into play with these cute little patch leads. So here we have the LFO. I can send the LFO output into the filter frequency. So the output of this low frequency oscillator, it is basically just an oscillator. It's exactly like this, but at a much lower frequency. So it just oscillates really slowly and allows you to assign it to various things to get some modulation going. So now it's still doing nothing because the amount is 0. So let me increase that. we're still not hearing any modulation happen. That's because over here, the mod wheel, you can set up the mod wheel to either dictate the amount of the LFO or the cutoff. So let me just demonstrate that. Right now it's set to LFO amount. So listen now. Let me turn this back a bit so it's a little smoother and nicer. A little more maybe. So you can have this this modulation be in sync with your song or with the sequencer that Microbrute has. So this can sync to external MIDI. So you can either connect the USB to the Microbrute and have the MIDI clock output from your DAW coming in here. So these modulations can be in sync. Pretty cool, right? So let's bring in a little bit of resonance because I feel the modulation's a bit dry. The other way of having this is you set the mod wheel to the cutoff. So now it basically controls the cutoff frequency here. That's the way they've set this up. So what that means is that the LFO amount is now dictated by this. No LFO. As you can hear by that, by taking the rate all the way up, it almost goes into audio rate. That way modulating the cutoff frequency almost at audio rate levels, very close to what the main oscillators are doing. So this is to taste, you can get the speed to taste. But I actually like the fact that this was on LFO mounted. So that's cool. So this way I can kind of bring in the LFO amount whenever I want. So let's kind of push this a bit further. Right now it sounds kind of smooth and nice, but I wanted a little more weighty and gnarly. So we have a sub oscillator over here, which is called overtone. Let me just bring in a bit of that. What the sub oscillator does is, as we learned in the last video, it adds a square waveform 1 octave below these. So this is what it sounds like. Cool, right? So without once more, and with nice weight to that. So let's have a little more fun with the filter here. Pardon my playing, I'm not a keyboard player, and I try to, thankfully we have the sequences to kind of help people like me. So in case I spaz out a little bit, pardon me. So I like the way this is sounding now. So pretty cool. The other thing is this distortion here. So if I want this sound to be a little more intense, I can bring up the brute factor, which is Arturia's kind of secret sauce distortion, if you will. Let's open it out a bit more. Maybe even a bit more. It's not too much. Increase the LFO. So one of the other things that I like in leads that are kind of sustained leads where you go like this is I like a little bit of glide. So a little bit of portamento is possible using the glide here, which I'm kind of just bringing in now. And now watch what happens when I'm changing, when I'm playing different notes. See how the pitch follows. Much nicer, right? At least there's a lot more interest happening in the sound. Without this, it's just this. Not as much fun. So, but this way, cool, right? So we have a nice, punchy, powerful lead sound. Let's try bring the glide back a bit down. I think it's a bit. Let's try playing it at different octaves to see what it sounds like. I think it sounds nice in this octave. Cool, right? Let me remind you, what you're listening to is just the Microbrute raw. There's no EQ, no compression, no reverb, no delay. Add a little bit of reverb delay to this sound and you have a really cool and workable lead sound to put into your tracks straight away. And because it's a fully analog synthesizer, it has that warm, unstable and punchy characteristic to it, which we've all desired for so long, and we always kind of think, how do the pros get that kind of a sound? That's because most of them are using analog synthesizers. So there you have it, a quick video showing you how to make some cool lead sounds. Hopefully through this you got to learn a few more tricks about how you can make your own kind of lead sounds and how the various controls of the Microbrute work. Thanks again for watching.